what was happening was that I knew the work that I was doing was worth more than I was getting paid for it. That was one of the problems. That I knew that the work I was doing was pretty cutting edge. Is pretty exciting.
How's it going, guys? It's Jack here. I hope you're having a wonderful New Year's. I've got another interview video for you guys. This time we're interviewing Chris. Chris is a software engineer based in the UK. He is the founder of Primus Inter Pares? Perez? Right, so I've completely butchered that pronunciation. Anyways, it is a consultancy company that specializes in mobile embedded and mass market software projects for clients around the world. I've got him on here to describe his inspiration, experiences, and challenges that he might be facing or have faced as a founder. If you're an entrepreneur, definitely watch to the end of this video. I'm sure you find most of what he says, if not all of what he says, very useful. So before we start, who are you? What do you do? How did you get into it?
My name's Chris St. John. I'm a software engineer. And how did I get into this? Well, I worked as a software engineer for many years for a variety of different companies. And so I've worked my way up. The initial sort of leaving university, you kind of get your first graduate job, and that's actually quite hard to get. But then once you've got a bit of experience behind you, you can start to build a career, and the next job's a lot easier to get after your first one. And after several years of doing that, working for different places in the Cambridge area, I saw what was happening was that I knew the work that I was doing was worth more than I was getting paid for it. That was one of the problems. That I knew that the work I was doing was pretty cutting edge. Is pretty exciting stuff, and it was a lot of fun. But I knew it was potentially going to help more people than just my employer, and also that there were elements that I could sort of accelerate my career. The other thing that I quite early on in my career, in order to advance, I sort of moved into sort of management type roles, and that took me away from engineering. I love engineering. Engineering's for me, and I found it's quite difficult to develop a career in just pure engineering within the space of being an employee, because they kind of want you to become a manager, and then the higher up you get the manager chain, the less engineering you get to do, the more supervising and line management and quality systems and all this, more paperwork, more time sat in front of Microsoft Word rather than a code editor. It was sort of dragging me away from the software engineering, which I love, and into a more generic management. And I've got plenty of friends who followed exactly that path. They're very happy managers. That's great. That just wasn't for me. So I was confronted with this problem of, like, how do I advance my career without being sort of dragged into management and just staying as this sort of fairly pure, quite specialized engineer. And the solution was to set up a consultancy company. So initially, it's nearly 15 years ago, I set up Primus, and initially I outsourced all the lead generation, because I'm just a geek. I don't know anything about lead generation. I don't know anything about sales. Didn't. And so I outsourced all that stuff. And that's fine. There are companies around that will do that for you. They take about a 20% cut or so of your invoice, which is a fairly hefty chunk. But without them, I had no work. So that was fine, and that got me started. So over time, I was able to develop a network and do some marketing type work to really sort of place myself in the market, become known. Initially in the Cambridge area, but then that spread out and has now become international. So I've sort of used these tools, and gradually I've become less and less dependent on that outsourcing, and I'm able to generate those leads myself and work directly for a variety of clients. And now pretty much all of my work is international.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. That's very yeah, insightful to say the least. I think it really brings me to a point where I really want to pick your brains in terms of lead generation that you mentioned. So obviously you mentioned that you outsourced it. So I guess the question I have would be what made you like, okay, who did you outsource it to and what made them stick out? And how long were you doing that for, or is it something you're still doing? If that makes sense.
So it's not something I'm engaging in at the moment, although
Okay,
I know that they're out there. So if ever things go a bit quiet, then I know I can fall back on that, which is really good.
that's good.
Because
Yeah,
it's nothing worse than having nothing to do, turning up for
true.
work and sitting in an empty office and kind of going, "Oh, what am I going to do with myself today?" Is not a wonderful prospect. It happens from time to time. There is a
Yeah.
famine and feast sort of problem. At the moment, I'm in the feast, so and have been for a few years, and that's great. But famine is only just around the corner, so it's good to know that these places are out there. And basically, what happens is that they call themselves agents, and they're usually an offshoot of recruitment agencies. So
Okay.
rather like there would be a job ad that you might see on, pick your jobs website of choice. In general, those jobs websites are run by, or the people advertising there are agents.
Mm.
They will have an arm which deals with contracts instead. And it's a very, very similar sort of process. So you sort of specify what sort of contracts you are able to perform, and they have a list of their current contracts. And then, if you're interested in knowing more about a particular contract, you have to get in touch with the agent, and the agent is keeps everything very quiet and very, very secretive about exactly who it's for and so on, until they've made that connection. They want to make sure they insert themselves into the invoice stream, and you don't cut them out and sort of keep pocket the 20% or so that they charge. So yeah, but they put you in touch with whoever needs the work doing, and if all goes well and you have a nice chat and it's agreed, yeah, we're going to do this, then the agents kind of step aside and then you deal directly with the client.
All right. That's quite interesting because it sort of creates a bit of a system where you could obviously I'm not saying you haven't already, but you could literally just it puts you in a position where realistically you could just cut them out fairly not fairly quickly, but like similar to what you were saying, where you're at a point where you don't actually need them, and obviously right now you don't actually use them. So it's not a system where they want you to. Obviously, their model isn't really a subscription model. It's more of a commission based model. Yeah, so I guess that
Yeah.
makes your life a lot easier because you just have to pay them. Is it like the initial fee or is it like the yearly fee or how does that work?
No, the way it works is that to get that initial introduction to the client,
Yeah.
um, uh, first of all, you have to be running a company. So
Okay.
they only deal with companies; they won't deal with people. So your company signs an agreement with the agency. The client signs agreement with the agency, and that ties both the provider and the supplier, I should say, and the consumer, the client. That ties them into the agency's deal, and then what happens is the agency charges nothing up front. But after you've done some work, you raise an invoice. I raise an invoice and I send it to the agency. The agency then add on their 20%, send it to the client. The client pays the agency,
Ah,
and then the agency pays me. So they literally are
fair
billed.
enough.
And yes, you're right. It would probably be possible to break the contracts that I would have with the agency if I could persuade my client to do the same,
Yeah,
and just sort of I'd invoice the client direct and they'd pay me direct. Cutting the agent out, yeah. The trouble is you've just broken a contract, and that's not
that is
clever.
true. That is true.
And also morally, the agents have to make their money somehow. I don't.
That is
If
true.
I did, when rather, it used to be an if, but these days it's a when. When I don't need agencies, then I don't use an agency, and so I have nothing to worry about. But when I do need an agency because my own lead generation is not able to keep up, then that's the cost. That's what stuff costs.
Yeah, I appreciate you delving into that a bit more. I think reason why I wanted to really sort of pick your brains on that is because I actually spent literally the last interview that I had. I spent a lot of time just like talking about his current like process in regards to like lead generation. So it's quite insightful hearing what you did from the get-go, where you literally just outsourced it. Because what a lot of business owners try to do initially is they try to literally source their own clients first, and then think about outsourcing it later. So yeah, it's quite interesting that you were just like, nope, yeah, I'm gonna outsource it straight away, and obviously it's paid.
Yeah, I mean, my advice to anyone wanting to sort of follow a similar path would be stick to what you know and get
Yeah,
someone else to do the bits you don't know. So, another case in point is my accounts and the financial side. I outsource all that.
yeah,
So, yes, I have control of the money. I'm the person who does the bank transfers and pays people and sort of sees invoices coming in and so on. Somebody else keeps track of it all and sort of puts it onto an accounting system, then talks to the accountants and does my annual returns and all that sort of thing. Because I don't know anything about that.
yeah.
I can learn if I wanted to, but
Yeah,
that distracts me from what I can actually do, where I can actually add value. Me
that's true.
becoming a salesman, me becoming an accountant distracts me from what I chose to be. The whole point I'm
Yeah,
here is to be an engineer.
yeah. I think that's the key thing about what you just said is literally not stretching yourself too thin, because I feel like obviously as a business owner you try to dabble into so many different things, but what people often do wrong is just literally trying to do everything, and at the end of the day, literally similar to what you've said, like you shouldn't be doing that. You should be focusing more on your deliverables and focus more on perfecting that, and then once that's perfected, just stick to it and outsource everything else.
Yeah, absolutely, and that includes the work that I've sort of done with you with the digital marketing and so on.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't do it the way you can do it. I'm sure I could
Yeah,
learn, I could try it, I could do
yeah,
things and so on. But in the end, paying someone to do those things, the specialist things that I don't have that specialism, is worth it to me because that lets me focus on what I'm good at.
yeah. 100%. I commend that. I was actually. It's funny you mentioned obviously the digital marketing. I was going to quiz you on that. So was it last year that we did your website? Yeah. So I wanted to sort of get sort of like what's been your experience in regards to the website, because obviously currently you have a website that's currently running. Could you kind of tell me about like what's kind of happened really?
So, because I am now generating, my company's generating leads itself.
Yeah.
That means that clients will tend to go through some sort of a due diligence. They'll want to sort of see, okay, there's this guy who's one way or another has got in touch or has come to our
Yeah.
attention. What who is he? Who's he work for? Is this what sort of outfit is this? So to me, it's important to have a brochure basically, and the website is my brochure.
Hmm.
So it means that once they find my company comes to their attention, they're able to kind of check out the company and sort of say, well, what kind of things does Primus do? And they can see the sorts of specialisms we have, the sorts of experiences we've had, the sort of technology we work with, and then they can make a much better decision. So yeah, effectively to me it is a brochure. The same way as if you go into everywhere from a budget supermarket to a luxury car sales
Yeah.
place, you will find a brochure, and
Yeah.
my website is my brochure.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. I think it's quite interesting they use the word brochure to describe it. What what I always say to people when they come to me and they want a website to be done, I always ask them, okay, what do you need it for? And then obviously if it's a situation where they need it just to showcase what they do, like have like a bit of a portfolio, then it'll be like, okay, cool. This is what I've done in the past. This is what I can do for you. And then obviously if it's a situation where they actually want it to be an e-commerce website where they actually want to be selling certain things on there, then it'll be okay. It's almost like a completely different, not completely
Totally.
different, but it's like a different thing altogether, because that's then you're really gonna have to like focus on properly dial in on like SEO stuff along those lines. So it's quite interesting that I think It kind of leads me to my next question. Could you sort of tell me if you could advise someone who's thinking about making a website for something similar to your business. They haven't, just imagine yourself, you've started up your company, you've outsourced your lead generation, but you're not sure if you should get a website or not. How would you say they should, what would you say they should do, and how would you say they should go about it?
Um, yes, absolutely. I think these days a website, or more importantly, I would even say a domain.
Mm-hmm.
Having an internet presence is crucial. And
100%.
I sort of it always makes me smile when I see quite well, not large companies, but significant companies, let's say, that are sort of still using a Gmail address or something as their main contact.
Yeah.
And I just looked at it and go, wow, they're clearly doing well, they're successful. But yeah, they seem to be a little bit sort of stuck in the past. They got this sort of Gmail thing. They almost certainly don't have a website because, how are you going to find a website using that address? You can't even take a guess at where a website might be. There probably isn't one. And that suggests that it's almost like, it's like sticking your mobile phone number on the back of your van or something. Yeah, okay. Nothing wrong with that. And
True.
for markets, that's probably the right thing to do. But certainly in my market, in technology, it's the wrong thing to do.
Mm. Could you sort of like tell me more a bit of why that's the wrong thing to do? Because obviously you understand your market better than I do. So yeah.
So yeah, I mean, this is a business to business market for me.
Mm-hmm.
I obviously I always interact with people in the end. That people are what it's all about. But the people work for businesses, and my business interacts with their business.
Yeah.
And because it's a business to business thing, um, people have my mobile phone number to contact me if they need me.
Yeah.
But if they need the business, then they'll either have the business website or email addresses, or they'll have the business phone number and so on. And that's sort of not me. That's sort of a slight distance from me. Because they're not interested in speaking to me personally. They're interested in speaking
Yeah.
to my business, and
Yeah.
that's how businesses kind of interact. Whereas, again, it sort of comes back to this sort of due diligence thing a little bit. If you're a blue chip client
Mm-hmm.
that has a turnover of billions every year, and you decide that you're going to pick this company for a $200,000 contract,
Yeah.
and all you've got is a mobile phone number. You're sort of
Yeah.
thinking, what's going on here? They need to see some sort of an established presence, and I find that the website and having a domain, having emails that they go to a domain rather than just a Gmail, and it doesn't mean that I love Gmail. In fact, my domain actually ends up in Gmail. That's what
Yeah.
I use. Nothing against Gmail at all. It's having that presence, I feel, is important, just to sort of elevate yourself from someone who's maybe just kind of running it as a bit of a hobby.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I think yeah, 100%. I can't stress that enough. That's like literally one of the things that I do say when I have like a client call, just literally be like, okay, if you want to be seen by your target audience as an established brand, obviously one of the things you need to get is a website, like a professional website, not one that you've just created that's like a free website that you've done on Wix or something. As much as, yes, you might be like, oh, that's like a cheaper option, which it is. However, it's more of how you come across. If your target audience are premium clients, so if these are people who are, high-end clients, people who are going to pay X amount, you need to make sure your presence is something that's professional and seen as professional and something that's going to be appreciated. Because if they go on your profiles and they see it and they almost just like, oh, what's this? Like, like this doesn't give me the confidence enough to actually like pick up the call and actually call this individual. Then there's no point. Then at that point you've just lost your client. So
Yeah, definitely. Knowing your target audience and making sure your website is as professional as it can be is the best thing to do, really. I've actually got some more questions. I know I have been prying quite a bit, but I wanted to just, ask you a bit more. So
Go ahead.
you've obviously stated how you went full time. You've stated how your inspiration for it. What would you say is your future plans for marketing your business? Obviously, being at the point that you are right now.
Yeah, interesting question. So I can tell you the things that I've tried.
Okay,
What
yeah,
were my
yeah,
future
go
plans?
for it, go for it.
Tried and not worked for me,
Yeah,
but that's just me. I did have, about 6 years ago or so, a plan that I was going to start. I just had so much work on, I couldn't actually do all the work, and I was turning people away.
yeah.
And that's not good. That's not good for me, not good for them. And so I did, on a couple of occasions, take on employees, take on staff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that didn't work out for me. Um, for a variety of reasons. But so, yeah, trying to grow in that way, and sort of become a much larger company, where I could sort of take a back seat. I can now see was sort of almost the antithesis, the whole point of starting this company, which was I love engineering. I don't want to be a manager, and
Mm-hmm.
therefore I don't want to have lots of engineers working for me and me just kind of sort of running the ship and sort of doing the supervision and so on. I want to be down there with, again, my
Yeah.
hands dirty. So yeah, that didn't work out for me. So now my vision is really to continue developing into markets that I've not yet reached. So I'm working with some quite large companies, and that's great. Working for big companies is certainly very reliable, and because these are sort of international companies now, I'm mostly doing international work. That means that I get to sort of travel to various places because they've
Yeah, can't
quite often
complain.
to meet up with me, and we need to work together and collaborate and so on.
Yeah.
Almost all it's done these days on Zoom, but occasionally I do need to jump in a plane. So so I would like to continue to develop that into maybe working again with smaller companies, more sort of startup type companies, because that's something which I find very rewarding indeed. And there's a certain kind of excitement and buzz about working for a startup when they know that they've only got 6 months of money left, and
That's true.
they've got to get this thing out there. And I miss around this time of year, just before Christmas, there's usually utter chaos in tech startups because you've got the
All
Consumer
right.
Electronics Show at the start of January in Las Vegas, and that's the world show for the latest gadgets. I generally develop
Oh, I
gadgets.
see. I didn't know that.
Usually I'd be working flat out up till Christmas, and then between Christmas and New Year, just trying to get the thing to work so it's ready to be at its best on a stand somewhere in Las Vegas. And yeah, I do miss that, working with the startup companies, because that's quite a buzz. So yeah, I'd like to move in, and the thing is that the marketing to startups is very different to the marketing to blue chips. So you're pitching in a very different sort of way. It would generally involve working much more closely with investors.
Mm-hmm.
So I might be associated with investors that these startups are relying on for their money, and they'll say, "Oh, by the way, that problem you've got with some of your research and development. Well, we've got this company over here that can help you out with some raw engineering resource, just to
Okay.
sort of kickstart those projects." So that's the kind of direction I'd like to move in.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good. Sounds like you've really thought it out. I really can't, you seem like you've planned it all out, and yeah, fingers crossed. It happens really. I think you didn't mention. You mentioned, what did you mention? Sorry, I've thought about it. You mentioned that you decided to employ other people, and you found that that wasn't really good for you. Why? Because you weren't spending as much time on what you actually enjoyed. Have you, I guess it leads to my next question. Have you ever thought about maybe employing someone to almost fill the position of a supervisor where they almost do what you would be doing as the supervisor, but then you just focus on the work? Have you ever thought about that?
Employ my boss, you mean? No, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
essentially employ your boss.
Um, I suppose in a way,
Yeah.
I that's the kind of role that I outsource.
Hmm.
So when working in a with a sort of more traditional sort of employer, ultimately you report to amongst other people the whoever's running the accountancy department, the CFO, and you reports to the sales and marketing. It may or may not be a direct reporting structure, but nevertheless, if either the finance people or the sales and marketing people are unhappy with what your group is doing,
Yeah.
then you'll hear about it, because that's what drives the business. It's about actually selling stuff, getting money in, and then looking after the money that you've got. That's the way businesses, as far as I found, work. So, and those are kind of the bits that I have to some extent outsourced. So in some ways I have sort of outsourced some of that sort of role. But yeah, the actual outsourcing project management, yeah, that's an interesting one. And I do know people who've sort of done something similar to that. I suppose the difficulty is that there's a potential then that when you're working with a client, that's something which they feel is very private to them. They want to run the project, and if they want engineering resource, that's what they come to me for. They have a specific problem, some area that they don't know how to deal with it. They can't find the staff for this, and even if they could find the staff, they wouldn't know how to support them and what to do with them. And instead, they can just outsource that to me. If I turn up and say, "Oh, yeah, I'm here to help. Oh, by the way, here's my project manager," they'll say, "Well, hang on a minute. We've got a project manager. We're not looking to you for a project manager. We're looking to you for an engineer
for the work." Yeah, I see what you
So
mean.
I think it's about the service offering as well. Do I want to offer project management? Yeah, some places do, and it's an interesting idea. But it's a bit different to what my current offering is. That's not to say it's wrong, but yeah, it's something to think about.
No, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. Yeah, that's fair enough. I think those are literally all my questions. Thank you for answering them to the best of your ability. Obviously, you've been very detailed, which loved it. All I can really say is, have you got what would you like whoever's watching this to follow you on? Like your web, have you got a website? Obviously, you've got a website. Have you got any socials that they can follow you on, or?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got a website, and I'm sure you'll be promoting that since you did the website for me. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'll be linking
and
that. So
also, you can always find out what I'm doing on LinkedIn, and also I run a group, the Embedded Cryptography group, on LinkedIn.
Sorry, do you mind just saying that again? A bit slow.
Embedded Cryptography.
Lovely.
It's security for small devices, basically. So we carry these things around us everywhere, but we're not too sure how secure they are. And this group is really there to try and improve the best practice of how we make sure that these stuff that we're carrying around with us all the time is as secure as possible, both in terms of protecting our privacy and also being immune to attacks. Viruses and other nasty things. So so find me on LinkedIn or find me on my website, and feel free to get in touch. I always love a chat. So give me a shout if you want to talk more.
Perfect, mate. Perfect. Yeah, thanks again for your time, mate. Appreciate it. And that's it really. So yeah, have a blessed one, and stay good.
Thanks a lot.
Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Also, if you're an entrepreneur and you're looking for a platform that has tips, experiences, and conversations with other founders, definitely join the Faces of Entrepreneurs group. I'm going to leave a link in the description below. And lastly, have a blessed one.